start. The referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Boxing insider Rick Glacier took to his social media saying, Jehan Ingram telling it straight up about the bullshit talk from Leonard Ellerbe and Floyd's hiding. Another reason why fighters are leaving Mayweather Promotions.
What?
All the bubba-looba coming from TMT these days. Hashtag boxing.
Who's Jehan Ingram?
Who indeed. Jehan Ingram is a young unbeaten fighter that fights anywhere in between 135 and 140, what is a former Mayweather Promotions fighter. They did a not-so-good job of promoting him.
He's a free agent who has since gone on the attack.
Jehan Ingram stated, "It's all jokes with my posts, but still not because this is my career, life that is being played with." Ellerbe is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, but says it's out of his control.
What's out of his control?
Likely a scarcity of money, a scarcity of fight dates, a scarcity of answers. It's what I told you in my previous video. Mayweather Promotions is but a subsidiary of Al Heyman's PBC.
Falls under that umbrella. So, if the PBC is having problems, Mayweather Promotions is having problems.
Jehan continued, Ellerbe is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, but says it's out of his control, that I have to address it with someone else. So what the fuck are you the CEO for? Like, what the fuck is it that you do? Oh yeah, gamble Mayweather Promotions' money away. So I have to address it with someone else, right? But you tell me you brought it to his attention, but I've still got to talk to him myself? Why you ain't tell me that a week ago when I sent my release? It takes me talking my shit to get your attention for you to still be lazy about it?
I told you that Leonard is just a wannabe cosplaying a business guy, cosplaying a CEO.
A Twitter user chimed in on all of this, a clueless one that goes by the name Artman, saying, "Come on, brother, we respect you as a smart promoter." To which Jehan Ingram responded, quote unquote, "Smart promoter?" I just joked.
Leonard's not a promoter. He's not a promoter like Bob Arum's a promoter, or Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Oscar De La Hoya.
He's an employee with a title, CEO of a company that is reliant on the PBC, what is just a subsidiary, another arm of the PBC.
But Leonard isn't a promoter like those guys are promoters. He's not.
Mayweather Promotions and Leonard Ellerbe are to boxing what a playphone is to a child.
Pretend CEO doing pretend business.
Jehan continued, "What y'all don't know is this isn't day 4 of this situation. I sent my notice being professional and being ignored. We could have handled this all off of the internet like I wanted to."
And what have I been telling you guys here on this channel for years now? They're not business people over there. They are not professional. They just pretend to be.
Jehan continued, "Let him tell it. It's not his fault. But you're CEO of Mayweather Promotions, right? I ain't the brightest in the world, but don't that mean you're the one that makes sure we get on shows and address stuff like this? Oh, forget. That's a yes man."
That's all Leonard Ellerbe has ever been. A guy hanging off of Floyd's coattails. A yes man.
Oh, forget that's a yes man. Gotta talk to his dad first and get permission. I love Floyd and appreciate everything from him, but it's time for me to part ways. I'm so behind from guys my age and turned pro around the same time. That makes no sense when I'm supposedly with one of the quote-unquote best promotions in the game.
Does any of this sound familiar?
For those of you that have been following this channel in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, does any of this sound like what I've been telling you all along about Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions?
They're all just cosplaying promoters, cosplaying business guys.
Leonard's not actually in charge of anything. They all got their marching orders from Al Heyman, as Mayweather Promotions falls under Al's PBC umbrella. So when PBC's going through hard times, Mayweather Promotions is going through hard times by default.
You're not going to get any concrete answers from Leonard or solutions because he's not in charge. He's not in charge of anything. All he does is carry the spit buckets and make the coffee.
Jehan continued, and to keep it real, I don't even want to do all this on social media, but I need to be heard, and these young guys coming up, they need to be protected.
what you need to know and understand.
The lifeblood of Mayweather Promotions flowed directly through Al Heyman's PBC, and what deals Al Heyman could broker with networks.
That's where the money to do shows and pay fighters came from, not Mayweather Promotions by itself.
Mayweather Promotions by itself wasn't brokering deals with broadcasters like Fox or NBC or Showtime. All of that was done through Al Heyman. So in a situation where Al Heyman may now be leaving the sport of boxing and all the money in the well has dried up, what good is a Mayweather Promotions? Of what use is a Leonard Ellerbe? You're the CEO to a company that doesn't have any money?
Of course Leonard's not going to have any answers.
Jehan continued, and the shit that really pisses me off is they know they've got them one with me. Matter of fact, everyone signed right now can fight their ass off, but for sitting
around collecting dust,
for getting told that we're fighting and then we don't. Guys in the gym working their ass off every day just to get let down with no fight.
Isn't that what I told you?
Once the fight dates start to dry up and the money, the fighters are going to start to float away because they've got their own bills to pay, their own families to feed. They can't rely on a pointless middleman to make ends meet because that's what Mayweather Promotions is. They're just the middleman between these fighters and Al Heyman's PBC.
A promoter with no money, no broadcast deal, is just another hand in your pocket, another hand in the cookie jar. What the hell do you need them for if they can't get you no fights?
And I'm really about to start dropping the ball soon. Me not getting fights is not the main reason I said fuck it. I would have probably stayed a little longer to see what happened, but when someone shows their true colors and you see everything's been fake, you've got to move on. They say boxing is a dirty game because promoters rob fighters out of money. So what do you call it when they make you sit? You're making no money, they can't make or take money from you.
What do you call that?
I would call that a house of cards. A house of cards that comes crumbling down. In better times, Leonard Ellerbe, closely associated with Floyd Mayweather and all of his success, could afford to play pretend CEO, pretend he's a real business guy, get his mustache all nice and tape it up, jump into a new suit,
use big words,
and take shots at actual promoters that broker actual deals with real broadcasters.
In better times, he could afford to do that, but he can't do that now.
If you actually had the business acumen you pretend to, and the strength of the stable, you could strike a deal on your own, branch out on your own to some broadcaster, and see if you can't work things out, but you can't because you don't know how.
You're inept.
So when a Richardson Hitchens leaves a Mayweather Promotions for Matchroom, a Jaleel Hackett follows him, a Jehan Ingram sees this,
He thinks to himself, what the hell am I still doing around here for?
Leonard Ellerbe can't give many answers.
Because Leonard's not actually in charge of anything.
He's the CEO of what is tantamount to a dummy company, in the dummy sense of the word, run by dummies. What it reminds me most of is how in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, you had any number of rappers with their shiny gold chains saying that they started their own major labels, their own record labels, which in reality were just dummy companies and subsidiaries of bigger labels.
But they let you pretend so you can feel important, so you can feel smart.
Now, how many of them have lasted the test of time?
How many?
And will Mayweather Promotions, will the PBC, with the way things are going and the way fighters are leaving and the reputation, the bad one that they're amassing,
And no real financier. No money coming in.
will they last the test of time? Can they survive? It's a story that only time can tell. In men's super middleweight news, Canelo Alvarez is reportedly planning to vacate his IBF super middleweight world title rather than defend versus his IBF mandatory challenger, William Skull, next. Canelo would remain WBA, WBC, and WBO Ring Magazine Super Middleweight World Champion and lineal.
This is the second time the IBF has put him in this position. It happened at 160, now it's happening again at 168.
My thoughts on this, maybe it's for the best. Maybe it's time that the landscape change a little bit at 168 pounds to bring excitement back to this division, because it seems like everybody's just waiting around for something exciting to happen. That had Canelo not vacated the title, well, you could have accused him of holding up this division.
Canelo has defended the undisputed crown something like 3 or 4 times.
Since having become undisputed champion in the Caleb Plant fight, that's more times than many of the other undisputed champions have defended the undisputed crown, though let's be honest, nobody wants to see someone of Canelo Alvarez's stature, ability, and profile in the ring with a William Skull. Even if it is a mandated title fight, even if William is a mandatory challenger, this is not the kind of guy you want to see Canelo fight.
If he is so choosing to vacate ahead of what's supposed to be the purse bid for that fight, what's he doing that for? To fight who?
It better not be Edgar Berlanga in September. It better not be. I can't think of someone more undeserving than Edgar Berlanga, who's not a pound-for-pound fighter by any stretch of the imagination, who's not even considered one of the better fighters at this weight. I just hope that Canelo Alvarez didn't just drop his IBF title to fight that guy, because I don't want to see that.
Well, isn't he Canelo's WBA mandatory challenger?
Yeah, and Williams is IBF mandatory challenger. Or he was, before he so decided to drop the IBF title.
You just said you don't really want to see him fight William. You don't want to see him fight William. You don't want to see him fight Edgar.
Canelo is at a point where he's past guys like that. He's past fights like that. For me, it's either David Benavidez or Terence Crawford. We know that Crawford wouldn't be available for a September fight date because he's fighting in August.
That rules him out.
For September, it does, assuming Canelo wants to fight in September. But what about David? If David takes care of business in June with Vajdik, can he make it to a Canelo fight in September? Because that's the fight that a lot of people want. Granted that it might require David to go back down to 168, but those are David's problems, not Canelo's. If Canelo offers him the fight, does he take it?
I'm a little tired of talking about Canelo and David.
And so William Skull is en route to become this division's next IBF champion. Ranked at number 1 is William Skull, and ranked at number 2 is the Russian Federation's own Vladimir Shishkin. You might have seen that name thrown around here and there at 168 pounds. Will it come down to those two? Will they have to fight each other for what is the newly vacated IBF title? Whoever wins,
They're going to have a lot of targets on their back.
yeah, a Canelo fight is still the biggest fight you can hope to have at 168, but it's also the least accessible fight. That all of these fighters, even if they're in position in the ranks, they're at Canelo's mercy. They know they're probably not going to get a fight with him, and when they realize that,
They're going to go after them.
whoever wins the William Skull versus Vladimir Shishkin fight, assuming that fight happens, that's another belt you can win, that's another champion that you can go after. So this frees things up at 168 in a good way, where other fights can happen, meaningful ones, and in that way, at least to me, this is not bad news.
So now, a guy like Bektemir Melikuziev can go after the IBF title. A guy like Diego Pacheco, a guy like Christian Mobili.
They can go that route with more hope that they can get the IBF champion in the ring than they would have against Canelo.
That's not a bad thing.
Things are getting interesting again at 168.
What did you think of Canelo fight versus Munguia?
I didn't see this fight. I saw only some clips because I was in my training camp, and he is supposed to win.
So now they're saying that he could potentially fight Terence Crawford. Any thoughts on that?
Terence Crawford, I put him on the one of the best fighters in the world, Usyk and Crawford, and it's an interesting fight against Canelo, but I don't know about his sizes. I never met him before.
Dmitry Bivol is not impressed by Canelo Alvarez. Intimate insights into how the fighter fights. Well, you know, he's fought him before. That's how he feels. He feels more impressed by Terence Crawford, who he considers one of the top 2 pound-for-pound fighters in all of boxing. Cerebral fighter.
A cerebral fighter's gonna like another cerebral fighter, and that's what Terence is. That's what Bivol is.
Birds of a feather and all that jazz. So is the reason that Canelo Alvarez is vacating his IBF title because he plans on fighting Terence? We know that His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh is hell-bent on making that fight. He wants to do it.
IBF or no IBF?
If they are going to do it, it can't be in September because Crawford's fighting in August. So you have to assume that maybe Canelo doesn't come back in September. Maybe he doesn't come back until much later on in the year.
December?
Maybe for a Terence Crawford fight. If it's that way, that would mean that Terence Crawford would fight Israel at 154. Provided he wins, he moves up again, jumps up 2-3 weight classes, fights Canelo at 168. Some people like his chances. Some people don't.
But that's what you need.
To sell a fight, you need to capture the imagination of the audience. A fight with fighters that are so good, so great at what they do, the outcome isn't quite clear, and the audience at large is split on it. Some people think Terence wins, some people think Canelo wins, some people think that Terence, in spite of being smaller and older, he's a better boxer, more dynamic than Canelo, while others think Canelo's just too big. He hits too hard, he's too durable.
That sells the fight.
Two different demographics that feel passionate about the fighter. That makes it a very big event, and I've said that more than once. Though,
Things are quiet for Canelo.
I mean, we know what he's not going to do next. We know that. He's not fighting William Skull. That's why he's going to vacate the IBF title. But who is he going to fight then?
Who?
Is he going to fight Terence Crawford?
Because if he is, then there's no way he comes back in September. Not unless he has a keep busy fight in September, then comes back in December. I don't know.
Now this puts added pressure on Terence. Terence, who will be moving up to 154 and fighting there for the very first time very soon. In August, there's added pressure for him not to just win, but look good. Damn good doing it. Because if you struggle with a Madrimov at 154, you ain't got no shot!
None.
At Canelo at 168.
Israel Madrimov is a very good fighter, very dynamic of it. Where Israel versus Murtazaliev for his IBF title, I would pick Madrimov to win that fight. If it were Madrimov versus Fundora, I would pick Madrimov to win that fight.
You'd pick Israel Madrimov to beat Sebastian Fundora.
Yes, I would, because a lesser fighter in Brian Mendoza beat Sebastian Fundora. If Brian can beat you, Israel can beat you.
Yeah, but Sebastian did beat Tim Tszyu.
Due to a freak accident, Tim Tszyu don't slam his head into that guy's elbow. He don't win that fight.
Bottom line, I would pick Israel to beat a lot of these guys, some of the ones that have belts at 154. So this is a solid fight and a real challenge for Terence Crawford. But now there's even more added pressure that you can't just go up there and beat him. No, not just beat him. You've got to look good.
Trying to get Canelo in the ring?
Israel is a good fighter, dynamic, but he's no Canelo Alvarez by any stretch.
Crawford's got to deal with him.
To sell the idea that he could actually handle himself against Canelo Alvarez at 168, he's got to make short work of Israel Madrimov at 154. That may not be an easy task. This is a naturally bigger, younger guy, less wear and tear.
That's what it is.
Dimitri said he's more impressed by Terence than he is by Canelo. I suppose that's how the situation breaks down, because Terence would be the naturally older, smaller fighter moving up in weight.
Wait a minute. What about all that stuff from the WBC about Terence potentially becoming the mandatory for the winner of Spence versus Fundora?
I mean, if Terence means to move up to 168 immediately after the Madrimov fight, then what the hell is all of that about?
I don't know, to be honest.
These are questions that need answers. Is Terence going to move up to fight Canelo? And if so, when? In the meantime, who is Canelo going to fight? Is he going to fight in September? Or is he going to sit that month out?
And where does the winner of Spence versus Fundora fit into this timetable?
Fit into this picture? These are questions that need answers.